mean, I think this is so fortuitous. Guess what came in the post today? Ah! Okay, let's open it. And before any of you ask, no, I don't have a record player. Do I have records? Yes, I do. I'm going to pop that there. I do have records. Do I plan on getting a record player? Absolutely. Oh my gosh, it's so pretty. I'm so excited. Ah! Oh my gosh, look at the back. Oh, I'm so excited. I love it. I love it, I love it, I love it. I mean, I am pretty pissed off that the surprise release album, like the full big album, was announced after the release of the original Torture Poets Department, because I would have obviously bought that album and not this one, but c'est la vie. Alright guys, I don't actually think, maybe the Odyssey. Hey Google, where did the story of Cassandra appear?
According to Wikipedia, in Virgil's work, Cassandra appears in Book 2 of his epic poem titled Aeneid, with her powers of prophecy restored. In Book 2 of the Aeneid, unlike Homer, Virgil presents Cassandra as having fallen into romantic state and her prophecies reflect it.
Okay, so we need to change out a book here quickly. 1 second, I'll be right back. Never mind, I don't have the Aeneid. Well, seems like I have to go shopping. Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Cait, and today we're going to talk about the Torture Poets Department. So, for those that have been living under a rock, Taylor Swift has released her Torture Poets Department album. 31 tracks of pure good Taylor goodness, and it's all I've been listening to. Hopefully I don't get cancelled with it playing in the background, but it just suited the vibe of this video today. So I thought, while I was listening to the album on repeat over and over and over and over and over again, that I would pull out some books that could be like the Tortured Poets Department reading list. Now, Taylor references a lot of books in her songs in this album, and I will put up maybe on this side, few clips, and I'll link them down below, of people that have identified what these books and literary references are. I'm not going to do that. I decided to do something slightly different. I thought what I would do instead is pull out some books that would complement the themes that Taylor explores in this album, and hopefully you'll agree with me, or you'll like them, or you'll have other suggestions, and we can start like a little Tortured Poets Department book club. Wait, would you guys like that? Okay, putting a pin in that because I feel like I've just had a massive brainwave. Maybe it's the coffee. Maybe I need to drink more coffee. I wonder what it is. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. I have a big pile of books here. Let's talk about them. Oh gosh. I think these really reflect the vibe that Taylor's going for. Yes, by all means, read the books that she references in her songs. Read Virgil's Aeneid on the myth of Cassandra. Read Patti Smith. Read Samuel Coleridge on the Albatross. Read all of these because they are absolutely fantastic books. But, as is typical of me, I thought I'd take a different approach. So, let's dive in. And I think I'd like to say that 90% of these are authored by women. I think there are only 2 that aren't authored by women. I think the way that I'm going to go about this video is actually to just show you the book, read you the blurb, and tell you why I think that it fits with Can I just say this is probably my favorite song of the album? I just love it. Okay, sorry, we're getting into it. One thing, actually, let me start off there. I think that's a good place to start. One thing that I've really gotten from this album is this idea of transformation that she's going through. She's starting to realize, like, she's starting to come into her own, where she's realizing that all of the toxic relationships around her aren't worth her time and effort. And I really love that. Definitely get a theme of like transformation that comes out of trauma and toxic relationships. And I think there's something definitely to be said about Mary Shelley's Frankenstein here. So for those that haven't read Mary Shelley, please do. I've got another book of hers in this pile just because I think it will be really cool. But Mary Shelley's Frankenstein is obviously a classic. It's a good kickoff. I'll read the blurb. A twisted, upside-down creation myth, Mary Shelley's chilling gothic tale lays bare the dark side of silence and the horror within us all. Tells the story of Victor Frankenstein, who plunders graveyards to create a new being from the bodies of the dead, but whose botched creature causes nothing but murder and destruction. Written after a nightmare when its author was only 18, Frankenstein gave birth to the modern science fiction novel. So for me, this idea, and if you haven't read Frankenstein, please go and read it. There are so many layers in here, and it's such a beautifully written book. And the way it talks about human nature is just phenomenal. Mary Shelley just absolutely annihilated with this book. And I feel like a lot of those themes come through in the Tortured Poets department. This idea of recreation, but recreation out of trauma, and recreation that is maybe something that people don't understand or don't want to understand, and yet it's something so pure and beautiful. Mary Shelley Frankenstein. And in line with that, because I'll be talking about it in the next video that I'm going to film, Poor Things, yes, you are correct. It is the one that movie that's recently been released is based on, with Emma Stone that won the Oscar. But I obviously had to get the cover that didn't have Emma Stone's face on it. Not that I don't like Emma Stone, I think she's fantastic, but I can't have movie covers on my books. It's not who I am. So I had to get Poor Things. And I think this whole idea of transformation into this monster-like figure who has feelings and is establishing things is just so prevalent. Okay. What strange secret made rich, beautiful, tempestuous Bella Baxter irresistible to the poor Scottish medical student Archie McCandless? Was it her mysterious origin in the home of his monstrous friend, Godwin Baxter, the genius whose voice could perforate eardrums? The story of true love and scientific daring whirls the reader from the private operating theatres of late Victorian Glasgow through the aristocratic casinos, low-life Alexandria and Parisian Bordello, reaching an interrupted climax in a Scottish church. This is screaming so much in Taylor Swift right now. I just think there's so much going on there. And as I mentioned, I did have another Shelley novel. This is Lodore by Mary Shelley. I am currently reading this and I'm absolutely loving it. And the reason I picked it up, which I think tends to some of like the romantic themes in some of Taylor Swift's songs, like The Alchemy. Okay, here, this is a perfect example. Alchemy is transformation. These are all about transformation. Also published as The Beautiful Widow, Mary Shelley's penultimate novel explores the web of relationships between three women bound together by the enacting Lord Lodore. Cornelia, Lodore's estranged wife, ruled by her mother and the norms of aristocratic society. Ethel, his daughter, raised in the wilderness of Illinois and utterly dependent on her father. And finally, the independent and highly educated Fanny Durham, the daughter of Lodore's childhood friend. At first glance, Lodore appears to be a silver fork novel, a popular romance genre from the Regency era about the fashionable society. Yet Shelley's take imbues the story with subversive critiques of domesticity and masculinity. Long considered the most Jane Austen-like novel, the most Jane Austen-like of Mary Shelley's novels, Lodore is an essential read for anyone seeking to understand this brilliant feminist writer. Underpinnings of questioning masculinity, right there. Domesticity is a massive one there as well. I mean, everything that is in here seems to be screaming what is coming out of the tortured poets department. And above anything else, there is a vibe about this album that just screams empowered woman. And I am here for it. I am here for empowered women. And I am here for women owning their past experiences and turning them into something powerful, exactly like what Taylor's done here. So, having said that, I think that leads me nicely onto my one poetry collection that I would like to promote. This is Jason Allen-Paisant's Self-Portrait as Othello. This poetry collection won the T.S. Eliot Prize this year in London, and it is absolutely fantastic, where Jason reimagines himself as literary figures like Othello and writes out his experiences as these literary figures. I mean, I don't know how much more Taylor Swift we could get here. The reimagining of Cassandra, the reimagining of herself as the albatross. I mean, this is that. The interlocking poems of his second collection, Self-Portrait as Othello. Imagine Othello in the urban landscapes of modern London, Paris, and Venice, and invent the kinds of narratives he might tell about his intersecting identities. Poetic memoir and emphatic experiment, Self-Portrait as Othello focuses on character at once fictional and real. Othello here represents a structure of feeling that was emerging in 17th century Venice and is still with us. Portraying himself as Othello refracts his European travels and considers the black male body, its presence, transgressiveness, and vulnerabilities. Othello's intertwined identities as immigrant and black, which often operate as mutually reinforcing vectors, speak to us in a landscape of 21st century Europe. I mean, this is such a brilliant idea, reimagining yourself as a character, as a literary character, a literary reference. I think this is just brilliant. So if you kind of want to get into Taylor's brain about how she does this, this is the poetry collection for you to pick up. I think I'm actually going to talk about this next book, which is a non-fiction book, but which really just hits across these themes of women taking back their narratives. And that is exactly what she's been doing. Everything that she's done about releasing her versions of songs and everything that she's done about reinforcing that these are her stories and these are her voices and these are her experiences is like Eve biting back. So this is Annabear's Eve Bites Back. This book I picked up while I was in Oxford. Annabear is actually I don't know if you would call her an alum or I think she's a fellow of my college in Oxford, Kellogg College, and I picked this up because it just looks amazing. I love this at the back. I don't know if you guys can see that. So you can see that they've crossed out all the names of the male authors and put other female names on top. I mean, that's just fantastic. We've got we've got authors here like Aphra Behn, one of my favorites, Jane Austen, Lady Mary Wortley Montagu, phenomenal. And Bradstreet, I mean, amazing. So let's talk about this. Ever since Sappho, Sappho, the poems of Sappho, I totally should bring those through. Anyway, I've spoken about this in my last video. I will leave a little thing up here. You can have a look where I talk about love, Stung with Love, Poems and Fragments of Sappho, and also the novel that I read in accompaniment with those poems after Sappho. And I will leave that here, so I won't repeat myself, and you guys have to go and watch another video of mine. I'm so sorry. It's such a terrible thing. Ever since Sappho first put stylus to papyrus, women who write have been labelled mad, undisciplined, and dangerous. But none of that stopped them from writing themselves into history, placing the female contemporaries of Chaucer, Shakespeare, and Milton centre stage. Anna Baer builds a vibrant new canon through scandalous sensation novels, restoration wits, and medieval mystics. Delving into the lives and work of 8 pioneers, Baer uncovers the struggles and triumphs of these game changers, groundbreakers, and genre makers. I mean, this idea of women who write being labeled mad, undisciplined, and dangerous. I mean, this is everything that Who's Afraid of Little Old Me is about. This is the embodiment of that book. Don't worry, folks, we took out our teeth. That is taking away the tool for women to make an impact. This is this. This is this book. I mean, I rest my case. I rest my case entirely. Oh, I don't know where to go next. I think I'm going to talk about Virginia Woolf's A Room of One's Own. I think most people would have read this novel, or most people would have read this work if they haven't. Virginia Woolf is one of the most influential feminist writers of the modernist period, so please, and possibly even today, so definitely go and read it. I want to see, they don't have a blurb of this. Oh, in this copy that I have, these are the vintage classic Woolf edition, so all of Woolf's novels have these cool covers. I'm just trying to find a blurb, which they don't seem to have. Anyway, I'll just read the inner leaflet. This volume combines 2 books which were among the greatest contributions to feminist literature in the 20th century. Together they form a brilliant attack on sexual inequality. A Room of One's Own, first published in 1929, is a witty, urban, and persuasive argument against the intellectual subjection of women, particularly women writers. The sequel, 3 Guineas, is a passionate polemic which draws a startling comparison between the tyrannous hypocrisy of the Victorian patriarchal system and the evils of fascism. I think there is so much in here that talks to what Taylor is dealing with in some of the more troubling or the more raw emotional songs in the Tortured Poets department. Even something like I can fix him, no really I can. I mean, something like that for me just screams something like Virginia Woolf. I think keeping along these darker themes that she's dealing with, you know, this idea of mental illness and struggles that she's having, this hide away from society. I mean, I'm so depressed. I think that I act like it's my birthday every day. Something like that for me just screams notes to self. And it wouldn't be me if I didn't promote a Tramp Press book, obviously. This is Notes to Self by Emilie Pine. This is a collection of essays. The person who loves the addict exhausts and renews their love on a daily basis. In this vivid and powerful collection of essays, Emilie Pine writes about all the things she shouldn't say, addressing addiction, fertility, feminism, sexual violence, and depression. notes to self is raw, funny, and honest. I mean, I could use all of those adjectives for the Tortured Poets department. Unsentimental and brave, the startling debut breaks new ground in the field of personal essays. Personal essays, I think this is it. I think the fact that I feel like these songs are Taylor's personal essays to us, to her listeners, and to herself. This is something that she is dealing with consistently, and her reflections on these are coming out in her songs. And I think that's why something like reading Emilie Pine's personal essays will really just reinforce that. Another new release is this exceptionally amazing book by an Irish author. This is Hagstone by Sinéad Gleeson. And when this came out, I think it was only released like a couple of weeks ago. I just immediately thought to myself, this is going to be the summer girls read. Actually, I have another book that hasn't yet been released, which I'm just going to promote here for a second. I'm going to put a cover up here. I know you can pre-order it, but it hasn't been released yet. I think it gets released in July. But this is Bodies by Christine Foley, and I totally foresee this being like the hot girl read of the summer. It's truly, truly phenomenal. I'm still working my way through the arc, but I definitely think it's going to add into this whole vibe that we're talking about today. So, Hagstone is this. On a wild and rugged island, cut off and isolated, to some artist Nell feels that the island is her home and the source of inspiration for her art. The mysterious Irons, a commune of women who have travelled from all over the world, consider it a place of refuge and solace in nature. All the islanders live alongside the strange murmurings that seem to emulate from within the depths of the island, a sound almost supernatural, a summoning as the Irons call it. One day a letter arrives at Nell's door from the reclusive Irons, inviting her to their commune to produce a magnificent art piece, celebrating their long history. In its creation, Nell will discover things about the community and about herself that will challenge everything she thought she knew. What I am really feeling, and now I wish that I brought the Sappho book and the After Sappho book that I talked about earlier, but what I'm really seeing in this Tortured Poets department, honestly, I was looking forward to more literary references, but what I see her pulling at is she's drawing inspiration from artists of the past and their collective history in figuring out her own stuff. And I think that's kind of where Hagstone comes in. I really do believe that there is this kind of collective voice or this collective experience that poets and artists and writers have felt and experienced over time, and this is something that is coming through and it's repeating itself, but it's also showing itself in new and unique ways every single time. And I think that's why when I read the blurb for Hagstone, I thought, well, this is just so in line with what everything is kind of talking about. I forgot about the mic, so I am sorry for that last book here. I'll see if I can edit that in. A last little plug for this absolutely fantastic book, The Woman in the Picture by Catherine McCormack. I spoke about this in my last book video. I won't go over it again, but the idea of revisiting the way we look at women in art and in society, this is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic, particularly how she draws out on themes of like Venus and the mother figure. I feel like Taylor really nails those metaphors quite well in her Tortured Poets department. But that's it. That's all the books. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I absolutely loved making it, and now I'm going to go continue listening to the album for the 750th time, and I hope you guys have a great day. If you want to read any of these, let me know in the comments below, and thank you for being here. Bye.